Welcome to another MacLogo video, and this time I want to show you or to look at the Walksnail system. This is not basically a review. I just want to see or to tell you my view regarding the system, what I've experienced, what I see as the plus or downsides of the system, and maybe also a disclaimer. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. I don't care actually about the companies. For me, it's just FPV, any system, DJI, truerc, Walksnail, HG0 is good for me or so. It's basically just my take, because this is my first HG system. I've been trying the DJI system, or just trying. I'm looking into into the goggles. I've also looked at the fit of the goggles, and for me actually both goggles would fit my maybe funny face form. No, but I think it also depends really on the nose part. And so as for the new I think DJI goggles also, that some may seem to have issues here, and this is basically just my point of view. So okay, let's begin with the goggles itself, basically, and then we have a small look at the system, the VTX, what I find good about it, some details, and it's just miscellaneous other stuff that we can look up. It'll take a little bit of time, and I guess I will also put some markers in that you maybe can jump to the points that are more interesting for you. But yeah, so basically I bought these goggles, of course, with my own money. I'm not sponsored by anybody except my wife and myself. And I took the Walksnail goggles because they had the antennas. They came with the antennas. The truerc don't come with antennas, and basically that's already the first thing that I would like to point out, that maybe I don't want to say many get wrong, but the antennas that come with the Walksnail systems, to be honest, they're basically crap. And especially I think the antennas that are on the VTX, they tend to break really fast, and the reception is also bad with them. And this is just seem to be designed badly. I think Hugo from truerc has got a test, or in his blog he tested them. It says no name, but you can see what what kind of antennas there are. And the fact is that he says, hey, basically the polarization of these is so not defined that you cannot say it's really left or right, and polarized says a lot about them. And he also states that basically using a deep hole would be better than these antennas. So that's already the main issue that maybe people are having if they get the system. So it doesn't matter. I think with the new ones you also get the patches, Walksnail patches, which seem to be, or should be, far better than these here. But I've got luminaire stubbies and these Axi 2 or X2 I think they're called. These work really fine. But otherwise, you can also have patches on top. You can internally also change the antenna if you want to. But that's just regarding the reception. What I wanted to tell you regarding the fit of it, for me, that's also purely for me. The goggles fit perfectly. I've used HGOs before, and I didn't like them pretty much because you couldn't change the diopters. As I'm wearing glasses, these are perfect. I can make them perfectly sharp, but it doesn't work for all. You have to be in a certain range that you can actually change and set these. But otherwise, here the foams, it has a slight padding inside. For me, it fits. I've heard some would need thicker pads. You can also do that, of course. What I also think, that the strap that comes with the goggles is fine. It's okay. It works. It's basically just a basic strap, and I've changed it to a FX HG strap. Because it's broader and a little bit softer, and especially here with this here, I'm using a short plug where I can just use this cheap battery. This is from my RC plane, a 3S battery that I'm not using anymore. It costs maybe about $10 or $12. basically, and you just hold it here. It's rubberized inside, so it doesn't slip, and really nice. No, it just fits perfectly like this. The good thing also, the old age, you have no power button. I know that has been mentioned before. The power button that you can switch it on or off. Downside of the goggles, they do always send currently. So basically, if you power them up, you have to be, you have to know that they're always on the set rate that you said they will send. So if somebody else is flying, you shouldn't just turn them on, wait until they're finished, or if you fly with somebody else, just that they know that you tell them, hey, if as soon as I turn on my goggles, then you may have an interference on a certain band, or just you pick certain bands. But powering them off while somebody's flying is actually a no-go. Shouldn't do that. Yeah, basically, for me, let's say that the goggles were a perfect fit. I said I like the DJI fit, would also fit my eyes. For me, I do like the smaller lenses that Walksnail or the Fat goggles have, but I'm also fine with the big DJI lenses. For me, the sight is, I'm talking about the older two models, not the newest one. Would also fit my likings, but I've chosen this, so that's fine. Yeah, okay, this is basically about the goggles. I don't want to go into specifics like data for that. There's a lot of reviews that talk about that. I just want to tell you my view of the points, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. For the straps, these are, I think this is way better than with the HEO, but it's also the same as HEO2, where you have this closed buckle here where you can put these HE or other straps. So for me, this is really perfectly fine. That's why I like it so far. Okay, let us look at the quads and the VTX and the other stuff. Okay, talking about the VTX, this was my first quad that I built. This is the FlowX Mini. It's from fpvframes.ch. It's a Swiss brand. Laurin, which is creating these. You can order them, and I also got it with a TPU adapter, that fits basically. It's 20. It's also like here we see the typical DJI Caddx Vista 20 by 20. But you have an adapter, so it basically fits easily, and also you have enough room in between, which is fine. One thing to mention, or maybe a few things to mention, is first of all the small screws. I've noted a lot of people have ranted it. I'll show you this maybe a little bit nearer. These small screws that fix the antenna, this plate on top, they are really hard to to tighten soft, or to remove and to add again. If you do it a few times, you might strip them. It's just easy. They're so tiny. So basically, what a lot of people do recommend, and I also do all the VTXs. Basically, these are only held together by a bit of how do you call it, thermal paste, yeah. And you can go in between these the cooling part, and how do you call it, the heatsink, and lift it up, and you can separate basically the cooling, the heatsink from the board, and with that you can then put on the antennas, the UFL connectors, which some see them as a downside UFL, but I think it's it's light and it's small. Of course, it would be sturdier to have a plug or something. But the UFL I think it's fine for this. And you take it apart, plug them on, and then you put them together. And what's then important, should put in at least 2 screws, maybe with a nut below, to hold the piece together. So if you crash or something, that it doesn't fall apart. Because if you just put them like this in, or like glue them or so, and there is no screw, they will fall apart. But yeah, that's one thing that I would maybe change with it. Another thing is the plug here, the plastic plug. It's fine. I've not broken one yet, but I've heard others that say, if it breaks, then it's hard to fix or so if you crash it. So maybe it would be good in future if they would just have 4 solder pads, where you can just solder these pads, and you could have a plug here in between somewhere. So if you need to disconnect it or so, for just working on the FC without powering up the VTX, because it does get warm if it's sitting here, you have to use a vent. You could just pull it apart and you just work on the FC or do things, like ESC stuff or so without powering the VTX. Yeah, I think that would be also a little bit lighter to have soldering pads, maybe with with something to cover it or so. I'm not sure. On this side, basically on the VTX, there is the other part. This is for the also a small connector where you can plug in. It's basically a small USB where you can upload firmware, download firmware, and also download the recordings that you have on the VTX. The VTX, and basically the 1S VTX and the normal VTX holds 8 GB of RAM. It's really nice because it records really nicely, and it's actually a cool feature if you want to use it. I'm not using it always because the goggles also can record in anything you want, and basically the funny thing is you will anyway record possibly in a better quality than normally you can show on YouTube. YouTube compromises the videos. It's a funny point. That's why a lot of DJI videos look bad, because it's not about DJI or Walksnail. It's just they upload 720 footage and directly have it rendered, and 720 just looks really bad on YouTube. Even so, the actual footage that they had was perfectly fine, was great, but that's the issue basically. And a lot of footage also, what I just shown was the Walksnail now you basically scale it up to 4K and then you put it on YouTube and it looks fine. Yeah. What I wanted to also point out regarding the antennas, something that I think that is important is to use zip ties. Here you see this is a TPU mount that I made myself. I changed the design a little bit. First I had these huge antennas which were basically, or they were like this, and they slammed the floor once and were broken inside. Basically you have a TPU mount or something like this. I've made these specially short and zip tied them that you cannot pull them out because you would pull on the UFL, and that's something that you should try to avoid. Try to fix them somewhere, or with a I think it's a TPU part that you kind of wrap around the leash. There's some solutions for that, but yeah, otherwise it really works fine. You can use the spots, 20 by 20 spots, or 25 by 25 directly. Works as on the, let's say this quad is the AOS 3.5 V2. There are actually both 20 by 20 and 25 by 25. The issue is from my stack, this 20 by 20 stack has a little bit a large pad of from the ESC, and the cables come out here, so it doesn't fit that well. So what I did is I did stick this down with a rubberized double-sided pad, and I have screws in it with nuts that hold it together, and this is perfectly fine. It really is. So there's different ways of doing it. You just have to see for your quad how you can do it. But basically the VTX fits in almost all systems. Because this is a 3-inch or 3 to 4-inch, and this is a 3.5-inch. It fits. This is a TB3. Also with a decased board. This is also something nice. It works if you decase it. You can. I had it up to 700 milliwatts. It doesn't get warm when flying. No issue with that. What can happen if you get stuck somewhere, and even at 25 milliwatts, it will get hot, and it can go so far that it goes into an auto shutdown. think it's about 115 degrees that was happening. But otherwise, works really nice. You can build light builds because it's actually very thin. The nice thing is it's only one stack. You can make pretty nice light builds. Not as light as HE0, but I guess a little bit lighter, especially with the 1S board, than with Calyx Vista. And here also, this is the top of Meteor 75 with 1X board and an 85X frame. It's a 3S Whoop bot. Even so, this board should take 5 volts. You just use the 5 volt part of the FC, works perfectly fine. Or you can use a quad that only has 1S, but you shouldn't then fly, I think, under 3.2 volts. Otherwise, you will cut out the DVR, and I think it also cuts out the video. You don't have any video anymore. But I see this board work really perfectly fine for 1 to 3S builds because of the size, and also you only have one antenna. This is also one point that I think hurts this a little bit. The 2 antennas, or like you see here, why should I have 2 antennas on such a small build? If I could choose, I would rather have one. 1X board would have been nice for this. But it shows how fast they're actually moving. They brought this board out pretty fast. It doesn't have the same firmware yet, but these are things that are coming up with the system. Yeah, speaking of the system, let's say one thing that happens to a lot of people, and that is to some people that we've seen in Discord and so, is they do actually not wire up the VTX correctly. And you know these in the boxes there's an exact way it's described. You should use a UART. Let's say if it's UART 1 and 2, you use the TX and the RX 1 and 2. Sorry, the RX and the TX 2. And basically what you have to do is to set up MSP OSD DisplayPort. You should also set up the ports in the Betaflight configurator. And if you do not wire them up correctly, what happens is when you arm the quad will go from will not go into out of the standby mode. It will stay on 25 milliwatts. It actually shows in the goggles, and if you fly away, then you will have a pretty bad reception. Happened to me, and I thought it was the firmware and Walksnail is crap and everything. In fact, it was just me wiring it up badly. Unfortunately, it is even worse if you use antennas like these. That's why I say, especially in the zones, in CE zones and everywhere where you're not allowed to fly more than 25 milliwatts, you should actually not use these antennas because they're just crap, and you get so much more range with truerc antennas or even AXI, something. I think these are anyway built also or designed by truerc also. They just, you have just a much better range. The thing is, with others, I have seen some tests where people say, yeah, it's okay, but I don't like the penetration, I'll go back to this and this system. Which is basically, people have shown that this system can go far. I think they record, I'm not sure what the name of thing was, but the record was 31 kilometers, an awesome clip. Basically it's just the antennas. You just need proper antennas and then everything's fine. You'll be happy with the penetration, with the range, and it's good. Yeah, that's actually basically the what I wanted to say about the system. For me, in short, use proper antennas. You will be so much happier with them at any quad. You can also have the same. These are also very light as these are. You can have bulky ones. You can have like these kind of made for racing that you can fix to a larger quad. The thing is, what I had to do, I really had to buy different, or that I did buy different antennas that fit my quads for every purpose, and that's maybe a little bit special. But the quads a lot are built for the Vista, and the TPU mounts are not designed for Walksnail, or not for the different antennas. So sometimes you have to print your own, or what helps is to check the pages of the guys that are selling the frames. Often they have links to the Thingiverse or somewhere. People have already checked Thingiverse or printables, where you can find basically TPU mounts for such things. Yeah, that's basically it for the system. That's I think how I view it. For me, it's really positive. I'm happy with it. It works fine. It's, for me, it's reliable. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I wouldn't say, take this or use that system. Use whatever you like, have fun with it, and that's the most important thing, that we enjoy our hobby and just fly. One more thing that I wanted to point out is something that I find a little bit special with the Walksnail community, or Walksnail Shark, however you want to call it, CADEX, is there is a Discord, an unofficial Discord, and that's a great resource. Nice people there. You can find a lot of wisdom. You can ask. They'll help you troubleshoot and everything. It's really great. And you can also find, links to stuff. It's really, really good. I will link it down below this video. And then a second thing that is also unofficial, there is a wiki about the whole system where you can find, manuals, links to firmware, even firmwares that were pulled again and stuff. And this is made by Jan. He's from Germany, and kudos to him. It's really awesome. There are also links to frames and parts, printables and stuff, and you can find everything about this. It's really a good place to if you search if you need something for your quads or so. And this will also be linked below in the video. So the last one more point, I'm still rambling. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the firmware. And basically, when I started, it was firmware 23 something. There were some small bugs, but nothing actually too big. The image quality was not that great, but it progressed, and I think 25, 26. 26 was already really great. Some people said it was a little bit dark. Then came 27, which had features for iNav and all the other systems. Not only iNav, what was it? KISS-FZ or all kinds of, next to Betaflight, also OSD adjustments and things. And that had really, for me, that's a really nice image. If it stays like that, wouldn't be bad for me, because I like it and it's fine. I think also a lot of people did not make that move, or when they pulled it, they said no, they will fly with 26, because a few had black screens. Never experienced that with my quads. I think that is only happening, or I heard it's happening when you fly a little bit further and the system is switching somehow in between. Not sure, but I never had that issue. But we're looking forward to the next firmware, especially for the 1S board, because here the 27 firmware has not been released yet. Next firmware will be awesome. It will have some more features, and it's for me, it's quite promising. They're working on stuff, and they're asking the community what they want, and yeah, it's okay. That's why I like the system, and I hope you enjoy your system and your flight. Doesn't matter if you fly analog, doesn't matter if you fly DJI, Fat Shark, Walksnail, HG0. I think it's all great, and you need to enjoy the hobby. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye bye.